Live from the 4 Aces Studios, 4 Aces brings to you West Coast Bias. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of West Coast Bias. I am joined, as usual, by Mr. Suave and the lovely Miss O'Malley. Guys, what's up?
What's up?
So, of course, you know, we might as well just say it. This is Warriors.com for the first half of the show, pretty much every show, and that's because for the first time, I can say it I can say it like this: for the first time in my lifetime, the Warriors are head and shoulders pretty much the best team in basketball. Oklahoma City tested them last night, but Steph Curry proved that Steph is a little bit of Durant mixed with a little bit of Viper or Mamba or whatever you want to call them, mixed with a little bit of Magic, mixed with a little bit of Jordan, mixed with a little bit of any other top player you want to think of that wasn't a big man. Give this guy credit as being basically we're watching just like a Jordan, a once in a generation player. So, guys, your thoughts on the Warriors, and not to mention that shot from Steph Curry last night, 32 feet. You got to be kidding me. O'Malley, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, well, I'm a horrible person, and I didn't actually get the chance to see the game last night. I'm really upset that I missed it, but I had a school function I had to go to.
Of course.
But, I mean, I keep hearing shit, and I keep seeing stuff about it, and I'm just so impressed. I'm not surprised. But they continue to impress me game after game after game. They continue to play their kind of baseball, their kind of basketball, and they continue to make other teams play their type of basketball, and other teams just don't match up to it. And you know, as far as Steph Curry, I'm just going to do hashtag Steph Gun Stuff. He's superhuman. He is superhuman.
Suave?
Well, yesterday, Steph Curry pretty much cemented his status as the best player in the game. You know, a lot of people still kind of holding out hope that LeBron James is going to up his game and take the mantle back. But Steph Curry is the best player in the game, the best shooter probably I've ever seen in my life, and probably in the history of the sport. For where it is right now, you know, the invention of the three-point line kind of changed the dynamic in the way that the Golden State Warriors and specifically Steph Curry are using the three-point line. Right now are incredible. You know, there's a stat going around, and it's talking about the percentages that some of the greatest have ever had. And when you take a look at the people on the list, you've got in fifth place you got Will Chamberlain for a player efficiency rating of 31.7, tied with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and then Will Chamberlain is also number 2 on the list by 0.1% at 31.8. Now, you notice those names, LeBron James and Michael Jordan at 31.7. Those are considered, you know, the best guys of their era. And Steph Curry this season is at 32.6.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan never topped 31.8. LeBron James never topped 31.8. But you got Steph Curry at 32.6. So this is going to go down as one of the greatest seasons for an NBA player in NBA history, and is really the cementing fact that Stephen Curry right now, at the level he's playing, is the best player in the game. Now, there's no telling how long it'll last. It doesn't last forever for any player. Chamberlain had it, but he wasn't able to cement it with a ton of NBA championships because he had other guys and other teams that, like Bill Russell, who were able to thwart him. And then Michael Jordan was able to get 6 titles, and LeBron James was able to do his 2 and 6 tries. But Stephen Curry is 1 for 1 right now, and is without question the best player in the game.
I can't agree with you more, man. Like, it's funny because when we drafted him, a lot of people worried about the fact of, is this going to be Monte's team? Is this going to be Steph's team? It's going to be Monte's team. Eventually, I always figured that their talent levels, as talented as Monte is, still is, their talent levels would separate them enough to where the team would begin to understand that Steph was definitely the more valuable piece of the two in regards to holding on to a particular player. And yeah, at this point right now, Lakeup and Gruber have Steph Curry at a cheap price, but that price is going to go up in the coming years. And to be honest with you, that's what I think the first order of business in this offseason is going to be, even above attempting to sign Kevin Durant, is going to be trying to see what they can do to lock down Steph on a long-term contract, paying him what he's worth, as what should be a 2-time MVP by the end of this season. So, guys, let's focus on that a little bit. What do you think the odds are that Steph is going to be the first to win back-to-back MVPs? I believe since LeBron James, correct? Suave, go ahead and kick us off.
What was that?
Would Steph be the first player to who was the last player to win back-to-back MVPs? Is basically what the question is. I'm not.
It was either LeBron or Steve Nash. I'm not sure if LeBron's gone. I think LeBron's gone consecutive.
Yeah.
When he
I
was
think
in
during
Miami,
those 4 years,
he had to win
during those 4 years in
at
Miami.
some point. Yeah. Yeah, he'd be the first person since then, to kind of, I don't think when Steve Nash won his 2 MVPs, I don't think a lot of people still consider him the best in the game, just maybe the best at his position. Yeah. But in terms of efficiency and what he's doing compared to what he did versus what Steph's doing, I think that Steph is in a different league, as it were. And even Steve Nash himself has said it. You've never seen a player that can do what Steph does. And he's played against some of the greatest. So, I think, it's just going to be another flagpole on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. O'Malley?
Yeah, I think he's pretty much, at least right now, in the way things are going, in the direction things are going, I think he's pretty much got it on lock. I don't really see another player out there that right now that is having the effect that he has. So, if he doesn't get it, I would be surprised and I'd be rather upset.
Now, guys, we call ourselves West Coast bias, and we all know we have our Warriors bias, but let's step out of our bias for a quick second and look at this from Oklahoma City's point of view. How much of a dent does this put in their confidence level? Because this is twice now in 2 different games in which they've had the Warriors down, not only at halftime but late into the game, and couldn't finish them off, and really couldn't put them down. A lot of NBA teams, of course, we saw the Spurs get routed. We saw Cleveland get routed. A lot of the NBA's top teams have been routed by the Dubs. But Oklahoma City has always managed to somewhat have a lead through most of these games and end up losing at the end, and this time in a very soul-crushing way. I'm sorry, that shot was soul-crushing because it just floated and hit nothing but net. If it had banked in or been some kind of crazy lucky shot where it rimmed up and out and then landed through, it made maybe a different subject. But that shit hit nothing but net, so that was going in no matter what. So that's soul crushing. So O'Malley, go ahead and talk and start us off. Your thoughts on the Thunder, because this is a potential rival for the Dubs in the playoffs, supposedly.
Well, for the poor Thunder fans, and even for the team itself, I guess the epitome of like sex without a happy ending. They just couldn't finish the job. Almost got there, but in the end, they just couldn't do it. And I think that it's going to do a lot in regards to their confidence. But we've seen that teams really shouldn't get that point advantage and think that they've got it on lock, because if any team is going to be able to come back and basically shit on them, it's going to be the Warriors. They did it during the finals. They did it during the first game of the finals. They've got games where they've come back from 20 point deficit. So, and teams have made the mistake of, and fans have made the mistake of, oh, we're up by 20 points. We've got this. Well, if you're playing the Warriors, no, you don't. Time and time again, we've seen it happen. So, I think this is. I think at this point, the Thunder are hoping that they don't have to play them until the last possible necessary moment during the playoffs. They want that team to be the last team that they have to face, basically. So I mean, we had this. Oh, well, I was just gonna say that, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago about, we beat them at our house. Now, we got to go in and do the same thing there. So, it's soul-crushing defeat for sure.
And Suave, your thoughts?
Well, I'm not going to call it soul-crushing. I think the come from behind victory against LA, that one was soul-crushing because we got to see what happened to that team. They went on a fairly horrific slide there for a little while before they were able to right the ship. And then against the Cavs end up, they're playing the East, so it was easier for them to right the ship. But, when they lost, when they got blown out in their house, that was fairly, I think, eye-opening, soul-crushing for them. But I think that the Thunder, because of how they lost, they're going to think that, they just changed up a couple of things and they'll be able to finish the Warriors off. So I'm not sure it was necessarily soul-crushing. Maybe if, the Warriors had blown them off the court in overtime, maybe if the Warriors had just had a 30-point blowout in regulation. But because of the way that they lost, they're going to say the Warriors got lucky on a couple of calls that went their way, namely the Klay Thompson and one, the Kevin Durant not calling timeout on the out-of-bounds play where he throws the ball away and basically gives the Warriors a chance. They're going to say it was fluky that Iguodala hit both his clutch free throws at the end of the game. Because I'll be the first to admit, when Iggy went to the line, I was on the edge of my seat praying that he would hit both free throws. Now, it's different for some players. If it had been Steph or Klay, I'd be like, oh, yeah, we're going to overtime. Oh, yeah, no problem. But Iggy was up there, and he's been fairly notorious for missing his fair share of free throws for being the player that he is, especially considering how good of a free throw shooter he was in his younger days. So I admit I was a bit worried, but, I didn't really take into account his clutch factor because he definitely nailed those free throws. I think that the Warriors also look at a lot of missed layups that they had. where they could have had an opportunity to be even closer or even have the lead late in the game. I think that'll come into play for the Warriors. So I think my favorite part of this entire thing is that the Thunder and the Spurs are going to have to beat on each other if they can get out of the first rounds to get to the Western Conference Finals. And that the way it's shaken up right now, the Warriors would get Houston, who's barely hanging on to that 8 seed, and then they would have to face off against whoever Los Angeles plays against, who would probably be the Grizzlies, who aren't necessarily the team they used to be, but are still fifth in the playoff rankings. So, I'm really enjoying the fact that Thunder and the Spurs are going to have to beat each other up in a 7-game series just to face the Warriors. So I think at this point in time, even with the Clippers having seemingly turned a corner in a sense without Blake Griffin and been able to win some games, go on some winning streaks here and there, I think the road to the finals for the Warriors is a hell of a lot easier than it is for the Thunder and the Spurs.
I can agree with that completely. Like, man, look, the Thunder and the Spurs, bottom line, within the confines of this season, I would include playoffs to finals because I honestly believe that there's just really no stopping this Dubs team. The addition of Anders and Varejao, which, by the way, O'Malley, I want to go ahead and let you touch on because me and Suave got to touch on it last week. We didn't really get to hear what you thought. Him picking up Varejao, getting rid of Jason Thompson. No offense to Jason Thompson, but if you're not going to be a staff stuffer, you at least have to be effective out there on the floor in being a defensive rim protector if you're a big man and grabbing some rebounds from time to time. And Jason Thompson did neither. I believe Varejao will be able to be a better option, and he's so much like Bogut minus the passing that he can fill in for Bogut and still be able to give you 6-8 points a game and 10 to 15 rebounds, which is really all the Dubs expect out of a center. But O'Malley, your thoughts on the Varejao signing?
I think it was a good signing for sure. I have a lot of. I think it was a tough decision to make, but I think that they made the best decision, and I think it may give us that extra edge that we need going into the playoffs and finals. I definitely think it was a good pickup for sure.
Well, you can see he's slowly rounding in the form. They're trying to get him involved in the high post and get him involved in the screening game. His first game wasn't necessarily the best. This game was a lot better, and I expect by the time the playoffs come, I think he'd be an integral part of the plan moving forward, especially with Festus having to come back from injury. So hopefully, if Festus can do that, Festus, Varejao, and Bogut should serve nicely to the Warriors in trying to repeat as champions. I think it seems like it's a good signing, and he missed a late layup where he got dined up pretty good, but he also went in, got a couple of rebounds, used his body. So that's really all they could really ask for. So I think he's going to be a very good addition, and I'd be very surprised if they're going to try and re-sign him in the offseason to a 2 or 3 year contract.
And I think it would be a good thing for them to do that because no offense, but like not necessarily the next Bogut because like I said, Varejao doesn't necessarily share the passing skills that Bogut does, but the similarities after that are many. You know, there are a lot of similarities between Varejao and Bogut, so swapping them in and out of the lineup not only extends Bogut's career for a couple of years if we do choose to keep him around, but it also allows them to be able to have a slightly younger option to be able to go with at that center position and rotate time with Festus Ezeli because we will have him coming back by playoff time, and that's where I think that it's going to make it to where, like I said, leading all the way up to the finals, I honestly believe that this is not necessarily an unbeatable team like they won't take a loss. Like they're going to go 24-0 and then 16-0 and win 40 straight games and win an NBA title. Even though don't get me wrong, I do believe they're capable of doing so. I don't think that they will. But But what they are capable of is not really skipping a beat, maybe losing 5 games between now and the NBA Finals and pretty much just blowing everybody out of the water. And I think Verjao adds a level of stability from the big man point because now going into the playoffs, you now have Azili, who is an amazing rim protector and rebounder. You now have Bogut in your starting lineup, and now you have Verjao that you can bring in off the bench to play that center position when you need to go big. When you're playing against teams well, Portland used to be, but like a San Antonio that can go big. Now the Dubs have the big men to be able to match up with those type of teams on their level, and I think that's what makes the Dubs almost unbeatable. They're just a team that can come at you from so many different angles. They have so many different missiles they can launch at you that there's just not really anything major, anything that you can do to stop. You can only hope to slow down. But needless to say, we'll continue our Dubs talk as we continue on. We're gonna go ahead and talk a little something else right now. All right, guys. I promised you I was gonna do this off air, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay it out now. Uh, my 5-point plan to ruin Colin Kaepernick's career and do it while at the same time. Now, do not get me wrong. Where this entire plan falls apart is from the financial aspect. And the reason why you have to have a great deal of spite in order to carry out the plan that I'm talking about is because it requires still paying the young man his contract that he's due, the other 80, 90 million that he's due. But you bump him down to third string, you sit his ass, and you make him a sideline warrior for the next 5 fucking years. Because by that point, his ass will be 34, won't be nearly as mobile because he won't have stepped on a fucking football field for 5 years. And then you just let him go and see who wants to pay him $20 million a year to come play for their team. It costs a lot of money, but it ruins a career, which leaves me with a big smile on my face. Because all this bullshit that he putting people through ain't nearly worth it. So that's my thoughts on the subject. So, Mr. Suave, do you want to kick us off with your thoughts on the whole Colin Kaepernick quandary that's going on in the Bay right now?
Honestly, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I mean, it's obvious that Kaepernick is ready for a change of scenery. His agent's already asked to see if they can search for a trade. I'm not sure, the Niners could be well served in trying to find him a trade partner or release him so they can save that cap money and try and show up more holes on the team. I mean, if Kaepernick's not going to be your starter, you have to either release or trade him. There's no doubt about that. If Chip Kelly can, and that's one thing I don't like is all the double talk, but at the same time, I do understand that teams have to keep what value they have in the player, and they can't just kind of dog him out and then expect people to take him when he's coming off his worst season as a professional athlete. So I'm very curious to see what happens. My gut tells me that they won't find a trade partner. Nobody will want to take on that contract as it is, even though it's technically team friendly. The price tag for it, you're not getting a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to Kaepernick unless you're totally sure that he's going to come back and be the player that helped lead that team to 2 conference titles. So I have a feeling they're going to release him. It really comes down to if he's healthy at the time where he can be released. I doubt that they go into the season, even though they have the cap room to do so, with an $11 million backup. And then maybe possibly third stringer. I mean, if the Niners do select Goff over a guy like a Laquan Treadwell, wide receiver, then, I just don't see any scenario where he comes back, especially with Gabbert showing some flashes last year that showed that, he might finally be turning into a serviceable NFL quarterback. So, and the fact that Gabbert has a lot of faith from the locker room and what he did at the end of the season. So I think Kaepernick's days are numbered. He knows that he wants to work his way out while trying to keep the contract he has now because he understands. If he gets traded, then he gets to keep the contract he has and keeps making that top flight money, even though it's a team-friendly contract for wherever he goes. But if he gets gets released, then he's only given there aren't a lot of bonuses in it and a lot of guaranteed money. So he'd probably go to a team and be forced to sign for arguably probably the minimum, the veteran minimum for however many years of service he's got now. So it's going to be real interesting going forward. But I got a feeling the Niners release him. Nobody's going to want to eat that contract, especially for a mid-round pick. And the next team that gets him, there are a couple of teams that might be willing to take a chance and basically anoint him the starter with a chance to beat out whoever they bring in. There's a couple of other options out there for quarterbacks. You got RG3 and a couple of other guys. Kirk Cousins, if he doesn't re-sign or if he possibly doesn't get franchise tagged by Washington. And there's a couple of teams with some quarterback needs. There are a couple. The Rams come to mind. Houston Texans come to mind. Houston Texans, turned their entire season around last year. So, if they could use a guy like an RG3 or a Kaepernick, they might be able to expand their offense and become a near elite team again, because they have pretty much an elite defense for the most part. They just need an offense that can counter it.
Well, okay. So before we turn it over to O'Malley and her thoughts, I just got one more quick thing to say. Here's another issue that I have with Mr. Kaepernick himself. You were mad because Jim Tomsula was not necessarily a quarterback and Jeep Chris was not necessarily the right offensive coordinator to run with you and to do and use you properly as an athlete, and therefore they diminished. I can guarantee he feels like they diminished what he could do on the field by the play calling that they made and so on and so forth. If this is the case, and this is part of why you want out, San Francisco, Chip Kelly came to San Francisco. 20% of the reason was Colin Kaepernick. 20% of the reason was to work with Colin Kaepernick. So why throw that away? Unless you're a moron, why throw away a guy who runs an offense that's almost perfect for your style of play and wants you and basically came to coach the team that you're on, but partially because you're on it. But anyway, O'Malley, your thoughts on
Well, that's not entirely true.
Well, they went with Chip Kelly over freaking Shanahan and whoever else it was that they interviewed, because Chip Kelly again wanted to keep Kaepernick, and the Niners' stance was keeping Kaepernick at that point. So I mean, he's also one of the reasons why he got the job, because the other dude wanted to get rid of him. He was done. He just wanted to get rid of him. It's funny that what he's coming out saying, because after that first game, where they won their first game of the season and they interviewed him, and he kind of made this backhanded dig at Harbaugh when he said, he's finally being allowed to play the way that is how he plays, and that he's not being forced out of his comfort zone and things of that nature, which was a direct dig at Harbaugh. So then for him to turn around and say, well, I mean, he completely contradicted himself later on. And, I at one point kind of felt bad for the kid because, I've always believed that the positional quarterback is about 80-85%, emotional and your head and your brain and what you have in the game, and it's about 15 to 20% skill. And everything that kept happening, especially this season that we freaking rocked you guys and beat you, and it was the first time that he started really taking a beating in the press, and where he started acting like a petulant little brat during press conferences. But his mental game got shot to hell. And his mental game this season got shot to hell. But I think it's more that his true colors are starting to come out. And who is it? What is it, the Eagles or the Jets that he wants to go play for? But, yeah, I think it's so funny, though, that there is just this huge disconnect between management and coaching and him and his agent. Because, what was it? The day before he comes out and says that, he's requesting permission for a trade, they were like, I expect to see Kaepernick in a Niners jersey when the season starts. So there's some sort of disconnect going on over there. I think he's dumb for not at least giving the whole Chip Kelly regime a chance. Because, let's face it, the whole Jim Tom Sula signing for head coach was a joke. Anybody who is not a Niners fan was laughing, and Niners fans weren't very happy. But, okay, let's just, what he really was. He was an interim coach. Because it's not like they had really big coaching prospects to choose from anyway. So I'm still kind of surprised at where they went with the Chip Kelly thing this season, but I think that he's ridiculous for not at least giving it a shot and seeing what it could do and realizing that what he's doing right now could basically be the end of his career. So, I think he's dumb. I think his pride has been hurt, and that is the biggest thing. And
he forgets
now he doesn't know what to do.
And here's what I love about the entire situation. Is first and foremost, all the speculation of him requesting for a trade, the Niners have bounced back with their PR media and have said that they have not given permission for him to seek a trade to anybody else. So I think they're standing pat at this, okay, you want to play this game? Understand, we pretty much own you for the next 5 years. Like, you want to try to play this game, really? Like, all you can do is request the trade. We don't have to give it to you. And so, and I think that Chip Kelly wants to at least see what Cap can do in his offense. And if Cap was intelligent, which he seems to prove over and over again that he's not, he would at least take that opportunity because within the immediate 24 hours after Chip Kelly was signed, 3 defensive coaches, I believe it was the Rams, the Seahawks, and there was one outside of the division, all came out and said Colin Kaepernick will be a nightmare in that Chip Kelly offense. I don't want to face that team this year. 3 coaches within 24 hours of signing Chip Kelly. If that doesn't give you some kind of promise that you can succeed in this offense, then your ego done gotten your self-pity meter done gotten a hold of itself, because that's ridiculous. At least give it a shot. That's why I feel no more sympathy for this kid. I say if he want to play those games, ruin his career.
The butthurt is strong with that one.
Yeah, the kid's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. We'll come back with the opinion pieces. Got a special deal for you at the end of this level of opinion pieces. Y'all be sure to keep listening in. You're listening in the West Coast Bias right here on Spreaker.com. 4 Aces Presents.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Cole from Planet of Cole and the Raw Impact Unleashed for 4 Aces Presents. Now, I'm going to do a little rundown for the weekly shows we got coming up. Monday, we got Now vs. Then from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. All of these are Pacific Standard Time. Tuesday, iRock Radio from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Also Tuesday, The Sidebar, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Wednesday, Hip Talk Radio from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Also on Wednesday, we got Now vs. Then West from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Getting a little late for y'all peeps on the East Coast. Now, Thursday, we got the Raw Impact Unleashed with yours truly and Kevin Kendrick, Double K. That's from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So, y'all check out our weekly shows and holla at your boy. Take it easy.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. Mute, not that kind of stuff. Suave, go ahead and take it away, Mr. Suave State.
All right. Well, as we said in the beginning of the show, the Warriors went ahead and were able to come from behind and hold on to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you got a lot of people going out there a lot of people considered all-time greats. You got Oscar Robinson basically saying coaches today don't understand defense. They should be pressing up on Curry. It doesn't matter that he has fantastic handles and can get by, the double teams and the traps that teams try to get on Steph. He thinks that players and coaches don't know what they're doing on defense. He just thinks it's as easy as, bodying up on Steph the second after he hits his first jumper. You just get a guy that's all the way on him. And, I'd like to discount that by saying that Steph learns how to beat that type of defense, which is why there isn't a defense that can stop Steph. The only thing that can stop Steph is Steph. A lot of people thought Kawhi Leonard was the Curry stopper. Well, last game against the Spurs, Curry roasted Kawhi Leonard. Roasted him. And Kawhi Leonard is, without question, the best defensive player not named Draymond Green in the NBA. And Curry lit him up all game. He shot over Steve Adams, a 7-footer for Oklahoma City, consistently. When they brought up the double team, he shot over Hassan Whiteside, known as a great shot blocker, to ice the game against the Miami Heat a few games ago. Now you got Phil Jackson saying, we haven't seen a player like Stephen Curry. Oh, wait, yes, we have. Chris Jackson and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Phil, whoever your weed man is, you need to let him come talk to Steve, because I need some of whatever the hell you are smoking. I got to smoke it. Don't care if I lose the job, because it must be the best weed on the planet. And if it's not weed, if you're popping pills, I need to talk to your doctor so I can get me some of those too, because I want to be on your level when you're comparing a player like Stephen Curry to players that at times were good but were never great in Abdul-Rauf and Jackson. I mean, I might feel a little differently if you had said, he's probably the second coming of Jordan in this era after Kobe or something like that, but no. How many people out there who aren't historians of the game know who Chris Jackson and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf are? Not many. Now, I grew up watching the NBA, so I know who these players are. And while at times these players could get hot, they never, at any point in their career, were as historically good as Stephen Curry is right now. Nowhere near. Not even close. So for Phil to say that, I think that, he wanted a little bit of pub. Twitter is the easiest thing to do. And who knows, maybe he does really feel that Abdul-Rauf and Jackson are similar to Stephen Curry. Maybe if they had been number one options on their team when they played. But I just don't see it. I mean, Abdul-Rauf never shot the ball this well, and he was an incredibly streaky shooter. And the thing about Steph is no longer a streaky shooter. After his first couple of the seasons in the league, he became a proficient shooter from range. And there is a difference. So I think everybody needs to sit back, appreciate the greatness that is, and watch Stephen Curry continue his even better MVP season, a single season that we've never seen since Wilt Chamberlain, basically Wilt. I mean, it's been 50 years since Wilt set that 31.8 player efficiency rating. Over 50 50 years. And only two players, considered the best in their era, have come close. They didn't match it. They came the closest. And Steph is beating that right now, beating a 50-year record. So I think everybody just needs to take a chill pill and just kind of sit back and watch, enjoy the greatness that we're witnessing. And for Warriors fans, let's just sit back, enjoy the ride, and hope that Steph can continue this type of play for the next 4, 5, 6 years and remain at the top of his game. And hopefully the Warriors can reel off another handful of titles before it's all said and done. That's it.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Cole from the Raw Impact Unleashed and Planet of Cole. Just throwing out there the lineup for the weekend for Four Aces Presents here on Spreaker.com. Fridays, we got Raporia Presents, or Raporia Presents, 2 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific. All these are Pacific Standard Times. Now versus then Deuce from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. That is going to be a monthly show. We also have Revolving Door Fridays with K Double's classroom, or Double K's classroom. Also splitting it up with Planet of Cole. Those shows are from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday we got WTF from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And also on Saturday we have the Troll Gazer Gaming Project featuring James Brower from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And on Sunday, we cap off the week with West Coast Bias from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And remember, all these are Pacific Standard Time. So check all these shows out and holla at your boy. Y'all take it easy.
All right, it's time for your weekly dose of the rise of O'Malley.
All right, well, I'm going to take a complete left turn here and not talk about Warriors, even though they are my heart, not talk about basketball, not talk about football. I'm talking UFC 196 and the new main event. As of Tuesday, there is a new fighter fighting McGregor. Dos Anjos was hurt, broke his foot. Unfortunately, McGregor's hope of holding both the lightweight and featherweight belt at the same time are going to have to be put on hold. And who did they pick to be his opponent? None other than Mr. Trash Talkers think he's the best out of everybody, Nate Diaz. I cannot wait to see Nate Diaz get the shit beat out of him. I can't wait. He's been talking shit since he won back in December. His fight, talking about he should be the next one to fight McGregor. This fight is going up to welterweight, being that it's last minute. So it will be going up to Nate Diaz's weight class. And, of course, it's a co-main event with Holly Holm fighting Miesha Tate, which should be another good fight in itself. And I know that we had talked earlier this year about, Holly Holm wanting another fight, and they were talking about waiting until Rousey was ready, because what happens if Holm gets beat? So this should be an interesting one to watch. Granted, McGregor is definitely one of the biggest shit talkers out there. I think sometimes with him, maybe the Irish accent makes some of it come across a little more eloquently than when or even his brother Nick, who I believe is still on a lifetime ban from the UFC. I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see Nate Diaz get put in his place, even though he tweeted afterwards that McGregor's going to have to go on down on his knees and beg. I really think that he's going to be eating his words. So I'm pretty excited that this is the fight that's going to happen. It should be a good fight. And, I mean, two of the biggest shit talkers in the UFC going toe-to-toe. It'll be a good fight to happen. So I'm excited for this. We'll see what happens.
All right. That has been Rise of O'Malley. Guys, just continue to listen into the 4 Aces Network. If you didn't get a chance to check out the first edition of the Trollgazer Gaming Project, which aired last night at 5 o'clock on 4 Aces Presents Radio Network. And let me tell you, that Randy, Jay, man, these guys got it on lock. They're funny as hell. If you're into gaming, if you're into just talking politics, talking whatever, go in and listen in Trollgazer Gaming Project every Saturday at 5 p.m. We still have our same lineup, MVT Deuce, MVT West, Wednesday nights, Now versus Then. Monday nights, we still have Raw Impact Unleashed on Thursday night, Planet of Cold or Double K's Classroom on Friday nights. You guys know the lineup. You guys know the station. Keep listening in. But I did promise you guys a surprise, and I have one more friend of the show that would like to add his 2 cents about last night's Warrior win. So I'm going to go on ahead and bring him in. And let him say his piece. So,
what's good with Planet Earth? All right. Last night's game made all kinds of history. 3-point bangers, all kinds of cliffhanger moments, including a 32-foot shot that sealed the fate of the Thunder. And even with 24 games left in the season, where this team still has a road to the path of destruction, clinching a playoff spot. And I'm sure most folks out there lost their ever-loving minds, because I was one of them. Bragging rights. But my little piece isn't about just necessarily last night's game, but actually what lies ahead. There is another point to be proven, and that is if the team can repeat. For those old enough to remember the 1976 run, Rick Barry and company were well on their way towards another championship. However, those hopes were dashed in the Western Conference Finals by the Phoenix Suns, whose fire got put out by the Boston Celtics. This is the year we showed them that history won't repeat itself. For those who have been hanging with this team, you guys don't need to say a damn thing. You already know, because your hardest critics are the ones who root for teams that were once upon a time on top of the heap. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. Okay, enough of that. And this will be the true test, because you know this is going to get mentioned somewhere down the line, perhaps right when the finals start. The Warriors making it to the finals this season will be just as important as the last season before, because you will have your NBA historians coming out of the gate and making comparisons. Well, guess what? They can go right on ahead and say whatever the hell they want. The one thing this team has been doing a lot this season is a lot of shock value. We have joined possibly one of the best seasons ever in recent memory. This is a great time to be a Bay Area sports fan. My favorite teams have made a lot of progress. This Warriors team has been a long time coming. We should have known something was on the boil when Monte Ellis was out of here and we ended up with Bogut. So many people were pissed, and some wanted to hang ownership on a rope. But the true fan really knows that when the Warriors hired their magician, Mr. Jerry West, that's when you knew shit was about to change. And it only took a short while for it to happen. Lakers fans started feeling the cringe even then, because West was a key to their success for many years. You don't think so? Then you need to do some Googling. Finally, let's face one certain fact. We know that there is still 24 games left, And then there's OKC next week. We already know that this team is going to attempt to hand a Warriors a loss at the house. And it will be a hell of an attempt. We still got to see a few teams who doesn't want the Dubs to get that all-time season record. But so many records have been set already, it wouldn't hurt just to have them all, just because there won't be another team for a while to ever set so many records again in a single season. Who do you think is going to do it? Who? I want to know. I'll wait. Other than that, folks, my name is Christopher T. Williams, a.k.a. The Saint. And our history has already been made and surpassed to be never repeated by anyone no time soon. I'm out.
All right. So as y'all heard at the end there, that was the Saints giving his piece on the Dubs and their current season. One more thing I also wanted to touch on with y'all about the Dubs before we move on to the NFL scouting combine and the draft for the Raiders. Steph Curry breaks his own record, looks to potentially shatter his own record for threes in a season by looking at almost coming up on probably 300 plus threes this season. Guys, your thoughts on Steph just setting records just to break them, making up to break up? You know what I'm saying? Heather, go on for it.
Well, I mean, it'll be the second year in a row and the third time in, 4 years that he will have broken his own record, because he missed doing it this season before last, but he was the one that broke the record that was there, and now he just keeps breaking his own damn record. Is setting that bar higher and higher and higher. And the crazy thing is he's setting that bar for himself, because I don't see anyone out there right now who is going to even come close to breaking his records. So he's really, all he's doing is setting the bar higher for himself, which, if I were a coach, that's what I'd want in a player who doesn't just play to the status quo. You know, just keeps setting the bar higher and higher. And I'm telling you, the man is not human. He's amazing. And I love watching him. And also, another reason I love watching him is just that genuine enjoyment and appreciation that he has for his teammates and when they do good. And just going out there and seeing the look on his face all the time. That is a team that looks like they still enjoy what they're doing. And I can't say that I see those looks on a lot of the players' faces. You know, it's just that genuine love of the game and passion for what they're doing, and unselfish basketball that they play. And they've been gotten on by a lot of critics about, this unselfish basketball. And, I think it's one of the things that makes them who they are, is because at any point in time they can give the ball to someone else and be safe and be comfortable with what that player is going to do. And Steph is that. I mean, he's that player. He'll, even if maybe he might have the shot, if he sees somebody open that may have a better shot, he's going to get them that ball. Where there's been a lot of players out there, Tony, who you can't say the same thing about, who forget that the sport of basketball is a team sport. It's not about one man. I mean, granted, obviously, everything is about Curry right now. But if you were to look at that team and see that team, they don't play and treat each other as such. They play and treat each other as, they realize how amazing Curry is, but they still play as a team, and they're you don't hear players coming out, well, he's not a team player. He's only out there for himself. Oh, he's carrying the whole team. This or that or what have you. I mean, if he needed to carry the team, that's the case. But I think where they have it so amazing is that he doesn't have to carry the team. And I think that actually does a lot for his stress level, his confidence level, because knowing that, I mean, while a tremendous, there is a load on his shoulders, I don't think he feels it as much as some of the other players in the league who really do carry the complete brunt of everything. So, I mean, he's superhuman, and yeah, he's just amazing. I could go on for, how long do you have? Because I could go on forever about how amazing he is.
How did they say it before? Half man, half amazing. Steph definitely getting that work done. Suave, your thoughts on Steph breaking the record, or his own record last night, and like I said, pushing 300 threes this season.
And to be expected on the pace that he started the season with. He's the most prolific three-point shooter of all time. He'll be getting close to the all-time record here. That's held by Ray Allen here in a couple of short years. I mean, probably like if he stays at his current pace, you're talking about 4 or 5 more seasons, and he'll shatter the mark that Ray Allen spent. You know, how long did Ray Allen play? Like 15 years or something like that. So I mean, he's really going to be crushing the mark and setting the mark that might not be broken for a long, long time, depending on when he hangs them up. So, you know, when it's all said and done, the top 5 3-point shooters in league history for the single season record, every name will be Stephen Curry.
That boy's just doing something special. All right, guys, let's get down to that gridiron. NFL Combine took place this weekend. What we're going to start with is just a basic overall concept, thought process, and discussion that I've seen discussed a lot. So, of course, you know, we got to put in our 10 minutes or 20 minutes on it. Is the Combine useful? Is the Combine truly useful? There have been players that have lent to either argument that the Combine is completely useless because they did not participate in the Combine, had excellent pro days, got drafted high, and went on to have great careers. There are guys who skipped the Combine and ended up falling and just didn't have shit and ended up having shitty careers. So let's start out with the thoughts on the NFL Combine overall. Suave, go ahead and kick us off, and whether or not it's still useful in today's game.
Yeah, it still has a place in today's game. I'd like to see more individual drills versus things that they won't necessarily be doing outside of the Combine. You know, certain people say, you know, they train for the Combine. You know, you do the 40 and you get your bench reps up, and you do your long jump and your high jump, you know, or your vertical jump and stuff like that. And then you get into the pros and you don't do any of that. You know, so I think I would like to see more skill drills geared towards what they would actually be doing in the pros. I think that would be a lot better, kind of like a skills competition, but for the Combine versus for what we were asking for the All-Pro game. Does it still serve a purpose? Yeah, to an extent. There are certain drills that, you know, it's good to know if a guy can, you know, bench press 225, 32 times versus a guy that bench presses 22 times. Does it mean that the guy that does it 32 times is going to have a better career than the guy that only did the 22? No. You know, those are the things that, that's when heart and desire, dedication to your craft, when all that kind of comes into play. But does it still have a role in the NFL? Yeah. Is it going to help weed out the bust? Of course not. You're still going to get your Vernon Goldstons drafted at 6, players of that ilk, guys that kind of just blow away the combine. Taylor Mays comes to mind, drafted by the Niners. Darius Hayward-Bay, drafted by the Raiders. Guys that just destroyed the combine and basically raised their draft status. So you're still going to have your busts, and you're still going to have your gems in the combine that didn't fare so well, but then their desire and dedication to the craft end up playing a huge role a year or two later. And it comes in with can that person get an opportunity to start and to prove themselves versus sitting behind down on the depth chart. So the combine still has its uses. I don't think it's totally useless, but at the same time, I would like to see more drills suited, because they have the quarterback drill where they throw it to the other combine wide receivers, and the guys kind of run routes, and the quarterback's kind of throwing the ball at them or whatnot. I'd like to see stuff like that. Maybe even a flag football game where the combine gets broken down. You have a couple of coaches that come in and they kind of draft some teams up. Players can do, not necessarily in any kind of full contact. I would like it to be flag football versus contact, but you get a better feel for what a guy can do, how a guy can beat a guy off the block and stuff like that, or at least have some drills where you can see those type of things. I think the wide receiver drills where they shoot the balls at you and the guy has to catch them in rapid succession, I like those drills. There are some drills that I really like, and then you still got the draft gurus who like the hardcore ones, the 40-yard dash, the bench press. So I think it still has a place. I think it just needs to be more refined than what it is today.
All right, Nomali, your thoughts on the combine and its usefulness today?
Well, I think it can be useful for helping to make some, if some players who aren't as known as some of the bigger, well-known players going into the draft, if they come out and absolutely kill it, I think that can help them, because it shines a little bit more of a spotlight on a player who maybe somebody didn't necessarily really even think about before. I think in some ways the way that it's set up, it's like a glorified field day. It really makes no sense. A lot of the stuff that they do, it really doesn't. I definitely agree with Swab and what he was saying and his opinion on it, because, some of these things really have no bearing on what these kids actually end up doing later on. Granted, okay, the 40, yeah, that's important, especially when you've got owners like Al Davis, who was notorious for looking for speed. But, how often, okay, maybe if you're a wide receiver or you're a punt returner, a kick returner, how fast you get down that field is going to make a difference. But you almost never end up running like that, like you would run a 40. How about throwing some obstacles in their way as they're going? That would be more realistic. I don't know. It would be weird to see it taken away just because it is such an institution now. But I definitely agree with Swab. I think it needs an overhaul. I think that it would be more beneficial to teams and in drafting, where they're showing more skills that would definitely be something that they would use in the future. And throw some mental stuff in there. I want to see how these kids act under actual pressure, not, in conditions that are pretty good. Even pro days. Conditions at that point are ideal. Especially when you're talking about quarterbacks and wide receivers and throwing and catching the ball. Those are ideal conditions that those things are happening under. So, I mean, get some pressure out there. You know, I want to see how they react in a situation that is going to be closer to how they're going to really react. There might be a lot fewer, draft busts if that were the case. Not saying that it would take care of the problem, completely, because it is definitely a different animal, and it's proven year and year and year and year again that just because you are the shit in college doesn't mean that you are anything in the NFL. But we've also seen players who maybe came from lesser-known schools that maybe weren't the big, huge, top-tier draft-level people who've come out and been those breakaway stars that nobody expected, that basically, somebody who drafted them saw it and got the biggest deal ever. So, I've got mixed feelings on it. I don't want to see it taken away, but I do think that as it stands right now, it makes no sense.
Very well said, guys. We'll start out with the Raiders draft pick. Or actually, you know what? We'll dig into that last. Let's start out here, guys. 3 players that the Raiders can afford to lose this offseason. O'Malley, go for it.
Well, I think we already lost one of them. Didn't we just release DJ Hayden?
Did we?
Because he was number one. He's number one on my list. I believe that we released him. He's definitely one. I honestly, we've already lost him, but I think that we were at a point that we could lose him because, and don't get me wrong, I adore Tuck, but his season was less than stellar. Granted, the leadership quality that he brought to the team was, there's always something to be said for that. Anyone that we had that was a defensive back other than TJ Carey that was not Charles Woodson here, our secondary needs a complete overhaul. I mean, we've got 1 or 2 pieces that stepped up, but I think that's where we got beat a lot this season, was in that secondary. So I'm thinking that, that's anyone there other than TJ Carey, and I forget who the one other player is. Anyone on the secondary basically can go kick rocks. DJ Hayden, if we haven't let him go, which I believe that we did, bye.
All right. Suave, your thoughts?
All right. One of the few times I'm going to disagree with O'Malley. I think you got to hold on to DJ Hayden, at least for another year or two. Sometimes it takes a while for a player, even though he was rated high, and McKenzie said he would have taken him at number 3, but you get him at 12. But being a first-round pick, you would like those players to instantly be the guy within a couple of seasons, but not every player is the same. He has shown glimpses here and there. TJ Carey, drafted in the 7th round, instantly becomes a starter, not necessarily a lockdown defender just yet, but definitely one of the best up-and-coming cornerbacks. David Emerson was the other guy I think you were thinking about. He definitely showed some strides. They pulled him off the scrap heap from Washington, and he turned into the other cornerback on the other side. I definitely don't think you let go of Hayden just yet, especially since you're not screaming for cap room or cap space, and you definitely don't want to give up on a kid and then have him turn into who you thought he would be for another team. So you kind of want to give him every opportunity. And I know in football, as with most sports, except for baseball, where you can stash a guy in the minors and let him develop, it's a bit different in the NFL. So I just worry that letting a guy like DJ Hayden go, and have him flourish. I mean, I remember players like Nnamdi Asomugha, he turned into a shutdown corner, but for the first couple of the seasons, he really didn't do much. It was really Charles Woodson was our best corner, and Nnamdi gave up some plays here and there, and then eventually when Charles Woodson left, Nnamdi became the shutdown corner that we knew, but that took a little while to progress. Honestly, at this point, I think with Justin Tuck leaving, basically because of injuries, with Charles Woodson retiring, there aren't really any players that we can let go. We let go of C.O. Moore during the season. So if I had to choose three, I'd say C.O. Moore, Woodson, and Tuck, only because two of them retired and the other one was traded, so or released. So no, I think he was traded. But I don't think the Raiders, where they're at now, can afford to give up any players or any type of players that can still develop into something more productive player. They're not a winning team just yet. We feel like they're on the way, especially with the talk that Peyton Manning might be announcing his retirement this coming week or the week after. So the division's wide open, and the biggest knock on the Raiders was their lack of depth at most positions, the lack of talent in the team as a whole. So you definitely really can't afford to just take three guys and say, well, you're done, and you're done. You really got to kind of, hold fast and hopefully have another good draft to back up the last two good ones that you did, and hopefully have a good free agency where this time you can get some of the top tier guys versus the plan 2 or plan 3 guys. We did get a top pick in Hudson last year, but I'd like to see them add to that this year by maybe adding one of the top corners in free agency and maybe another defensive tackle. There's going to be a couple of guys out there that'll be real good.
All right, now we move to the opposite side of the coin. 3 guys that the Raiders need to target in free agency that you would like to see wearing the silver and black next year. There's a lot of free agents, a lot of guys that have been released recently. O'Malley, going ahead and you kick us off with your thoughts.
We need to definitely address our running back issues. I'm not sure who that would be in free agency, or if we just wait for the draft. Yeah. As far as free agency goes, right now, I mean, we've seen some key releases. Kind of waiting to see what St. Louis, or, well, I guess, should we start calling them Los Angeles Rams do, with their cornerback situation. I think that there's some that I'm waiting to see if they get released in free agency. I know that there are a couple of teams that are throwing around, the franchise tag and who they may use it for. I'm not sure. Free agency is a tricky animal because in years past, I'm hoping that this season that we don't necessarily have this issue, is that, we have gotten looked over by players that we could have used. Although I think Reggie's also played it very smart in not giving some of these astronomical contracts to some of these guys who come in and that's what they want, because it took us a long time to get out from under the cap hell that we were in. So I'm concerned that anyone that is really worth anything is going to be wanting a high price tag, and I don't see that. Reggie's more one to build through the draft than to pay out the ass for a free agent. So I'm more interested in what Suave has to say about this, because I think he's got some better insight into some of the free agency and who he might like to see on the Raiders. And I definitely usually am in agreement, except for this whole, I'm in complete disagreement with the whole DJ Hayden thing. But other than that, I'm interested to see what he has to say, because anyone who's really worth it, I don't see us going after, just because of the price tags that will usually come along with them.
All right, so Suave, your thoughts?
All right. Well, O'Malley wants to hear what I got to say, and boy, do I got a bunch to say. So where I didn't want them to give away any talent or cut 3 players, the 3 players I would like them to go after, one is a draft pick. I've kind of solidified my thought that I'd like to see them. I want to see McKenzie strike gold on a first-round cornerback, and I think Mackenzie Alexander is probably going to be the pick for him. He'll probably be the 3rd cornerback taken this year, or 2nd, depending on if Jalen Ramsey becomes a safety or a corner. After that, I'd like to see them take Sean Smith away from Kansas City. I doubt Kansas City will get a deal done with Smith. They don't really have tons of cap room, and I doubt that they try and franchise tag him. The guy above Smith who I would like would be the kid from Carolina, who really kind of stepped into his own this season as part of that defense. But I fully expect them to try and make a hard time to re-sign him. I'm not sure that they would use the franchise tag, but if they don't, I would like to see him versus Sean Smith, who's definitely a bit older. But after cornerback in the draft and cornerback in free agency, I think that the next pick I would go after, and probably the highest paid player I would go after, would be Muhammad Wilkerson. I know this is going to sound funky, but I play Madden. I love it to death. Been playing it for years. And while playing in my current fantasy league with my homies, Muhammad Wilkerson happened to become a free agent. And I just so happened to sign him. And he was great for me for about 5 seasons, probably played some of the best ball of his career as an Oakland Raider on my game. Helped me win a couple of Super Bowl titles. You can never have enough versatility and depth on the defensive line. They're definitely trying to mold this defense in the vein of the New York Giants. If you can have a lot of pop and thunder off of the defensive line, I think that you can control a lot of the games that you play. You have a good chance of getting to the quarterback. It means that your linebacking core doesn't have to be top-notch or the best. It means your cornerbacks don't have to be top-notch or the best, or your safeties, because you're creating pressure on the quarterback and on the running game by stuffing it at the line, at the first line of defense for your defense. So I think Muhammad Wilkerson should be high on the list. The Jets have 2 players who they can or 2 players they want to, one they want to sign, the other one they want to franchise tag, because they're not sure if they're going to be able to sign both of them to long-term deals. I have a feeling that Muhammad Wilkerson will be the guy that they don't choose to tag, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If it's not Wilkerson, or even if it is Wilkerson, I would like to also see them get a deal in place with Aldon Smith for when his suspension is done. I think a defensive line with Mac Williams, who they got in free agency last year, Muhammad Wilkerson, and Aldon Smith when he comes back for suspension, those 4 players on the field at the same time, I think would represent the single best front 4 in all of football. A front 4 that we haven't seen since Justin Tuck was young and playing opposite Michael Strahan in New York. And if history shows us anything, is that if you can get a dominant front 4, they can win a Super Bowl. And I think our offense is good enough that if we can get a dominant front 4, I think that's another reason why they went after Ndamukong Suh last year. Ndamukong didn't blow the doors off in Miami, but he definitely wasn't terrible. I think by adding a player like that in a Wilkerson, I think can elevate the defense even more. It can take the pressure off of the entire unit as a whole and really solidify the entire team. I think the offense still needs to be more consistent. I'm not sold on the offensive coordinator still. I thought he had a lot of vanilla calls throughout the season, things that I thought held the team back in a couple of games that they could have and most likely in the future will win. So yeah, those are really I want to see cornerback in the draft. I want to see one of the two top cornerbacks, Sean Smith or the kid from Carolina, get cut loose by their team. And then I'd like to see them go after Wilkerson and re-sign Aldon Smith. And I'm a happy Raiders fan.
Okay, folks, I had to step in for a minute for Double K. He had to go step away. This is the Saint coming at you. Not sure what you guys were going. So, Swab, you already did your piece, or?
Well, I can keep going if you like, because there's also that
Yeah,
guy in the
it
draft,
might.
Kendichi or whatever his name is, and he's having a pretty good combine. They say that he's had some off the field issues, but I wouldn't mind him. And if we don't get the cornerback we like, I would like them to see them address the defensive line. And it's also possible that a player like Treadwell, the wide receiver, who's the best wide receiver in this class, I wouldn't mind seeing them take Treadwell. Even though we need defense, we can get defense through free agency, and if we can add another top-notch receiver, or technically the best receiver in this draft to go along with the one that we got last year, and Crabtree, I like Seth Roberts, and I like some of the younger guys that we have that are starting to come up. But they soured on Bryce Butler, and they let him go. They obviously soured on Rod Streeter. So to have a Treadwell, a Cooper, and to have a Crabtree on the field at the same time, to go with the tight end that they got last year, who I really, really like and think will be a dominant player, I think that would really open up the offense. And I also got to say, last week, I said it was stupid if they took Ezekiel Elliott with their first-round pick, but I think I'm starting to change gears. I love Latavius Murray, but if we could get a dual-back threat where they could really, keep the running backs fresh, because, Latavius, he's taken a couple of dings here and there. He's had some concussion issues and things like that. And to have a guy that we could bring in, if they're obviously not going to give Marcel Reese the opportunity to be a running back like they ought to, or use him properly as they should, even though they showed some flashes last year. The flashes just aren't enough for me. If you're not going to make him your number two back when Latavius goes down, then I don't know what they're doing with Reese. He should be still the focal point of the entire offense because he's a walking mismatch. But if they're not going to do that, if they miss out on Treadwell, the cornerback, and the defensive tackle I like, and Kendichi, then I wouldn't be 100% against them taking an Ezekiel Elliott. But it does come with some reservations. That's for damn sure.
Okay, O'Malley, I kind of hear you. I hear the wheels are turning even through this headset. Do you agree or disagree with what Mr. Swab is speaking on?
No, I agree with him. I agree that those are definitely things that we need to work on. I think that we should definitely save a later draft pick for a wide receiver. It's definitely not the first. I was surprised this year when we used our first round pick on Amari Cooper. Not that he didn't necessarily deserve it, although the kid needs to learn how to stop dropping the goddamn ball.
Yes.
The drops are not okay, especially with the accolades that he came into the league with. Dropping was never an issue that I had seen him have. So you got to help our quarterback out. Let him have some faith that you're going to not drop the ball he sends your way. Don't fuck up his statistics because you can't fucking keep your hands on the ball. But I definitely think defense is what we need to address first and foremost. And first and foremost, I believe it's our secondary that needs to be addressed. And quite possibly in both free agency and in the draft. So I think that I see us picking up another receiver in the draft. I just don't see us using, especially when, we have a very defensive-minded head coach, which is one of the reasons why I was surprised that we had gone with Amari Cooper. But not saying that I'm a holdout hope and hope that he got those rookie season dropping jitters out of him, and that he's going to come and be the beast that everybody believes that he can be. But I think our secondary, and like what Swab was saying, that front four are what needs to be addressed the most. I definitely agree with getting something done for Smith when his suspension is over, which I believe that we're going to do, because everything that the Raiders said when his suspension was finally handed down was that they were going to stick with him and that he was part of the family now, and to do what they could to, make sure that he came through this on the other side, a Raider and the player that he was and the player that he really can be. So I think that that's important. I still am going to stick strong with Hayden's got to go. I'm sorry. The kid was even benched this season. He was doing so bad. And my understanding was he wasn't just playing bad. He was practicing bad. So if you can't get out there and give it your all in practice,
yeah,
at least we have coaches who have proven that they don't have a problem benching or even getting rid of players, Theo Moore, who weren't getting out there and putting in the work that they needed to. So, if you can't get out there and put in the work, especially when it's one thing for you to get out there and not necessarily go 100 in practice, but if your play on Sunday isn't backing up your lackluster practicing, then you got to go.
Okay, I guess I can.
And
I can agree with that.
To add, I had a crazy thought a couple weeks ago, and I kind of got blasted in a lot of my Raider groups that I'm in on the Facebook. But if I could make this happen, I would sign Wilkerson in free agency, and then I would trade the first, second, and third picks in this draft and a second rounder next year for Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. Now I got blasted because they were like, you got to build through the draft, and you got to be through the draft. But
sir, that was a dream on Bullwinkle moment there you're having there, Steve.
I'm only laughing because that ain't never gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's all.
But the Seahawks believe that they can find those players later in the draft, like they did for Cam Chancellor was a later round pick. Richard Sherman was a mid-round pick. So I'm sure that they feel that with 4 more draft picks, they could go out and find their replacement. Now, would it happen? I'm probably betting against it, but they're actually not necessarily in dire cap situation, but they have some cap issues. And I think that those 2 players will definitely help solidify the secondary, the defense as a whole, and will actually put our defense towards elite status. T.J. Carey will become your number 2 cornerback. You have DJ Hayden as your 3rd or 4th option behind Emerson, whoever battles out for there, where I think they can both be effective. And I think Richard Sherman's shown that he can be a shutdown corner. Cam Chancellor is one of the best safeties in the NFL. So if they could get Seattle to take that deal, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, folks, we have come down to the final seconds. We have come down to the final seconds of this broadcast. let's get a couple of final thoughts, especially with this Warriors team. Fantastic job last night. I had to put in my 2 minutes of spiel there, but O'Malley, what are your thoughts going into the week, especially with this game coming up with OKC next Thursday at the home front?
Go Dubs. I'm sad I didn't get to watch the game last night, so I'll definitely be watching this one. All I gotta say is Dubs all day. That's about it.
Okay. Mr. Suave.
Does definitely have to defend the home court. Oklahoma City is going to be out for vengeance. They're really going to be smarting after this loss. I don't think it was soul crushing. They're definitely going to want to go out and prove a point. They were playing excellent basketball for 46 or 48 minutes out of the game. So I think that the Warriors, I would like to see them undefeated at home, winning the season series against Oklahoma City by beating them at home on Thursday would be fantastic. You got to defend the home court. The one thing you don't want is any of them. I mean, you don't want to lose at home at all, but to lose to one of the teams you could face in the playoffs is definitely something you don't want to do. You don't want to give a team like that confidence that they can come into your house with your home court advantage and take it from you. So I think it's definitely a big, another huge game for both teams towards the end of the season.
All right. And all I can pretty much say is this, go Dubs. I believe that Oklahoma's pretty much going to get the same kind of disappointment they got last night. Steph Curry, to me, really has nothing else to prove. He solidified that with that beautiful, fantastic shot at the All-Star game. And it was pretty much a repeat of what happened last night. So, I'm feeling the same way everybody else is. Definitely that I believe that this Warriors team is going to make it happen. They're going to take it all the way to the end. As I've said before, they just, I just want them to get to the finals. They get to the finals, then that's letting everybody know that it could be done. But if they win it, the repeat is going to be just as awesome. And I like to see it happen the third year.
They have to. They have to repeat. They have to have another parade. I was in the hospital last year, and that wasn't fair. So they got to do it again. Come on. They got to do it again so I can actually take part in the shit this time. Because, 40 years, really, and they do it when I'm in the damn hospital. But, so, yeah.
All right.
So, period. Curry, y'all got to do it again. There's no choice. You just got to do it. Make it happen.
All right. Well, that's about it for this week's edition of West Coast Bias. Be sure that you join, once again, Double K, O'Malley, and Mr. Suave on the next edition of West Coast Bias. Same time, same channel, live right here on Spreaker.com for Aces Presents. And we will be seeing you sooner than later. And we're out.
Yeah.